Welcome back to the show, everybody. This week, we're actually going to be talking about an episode of Andrew Huberman's podcast. Now, we're going to be diving into it because we actually learned a little bit about it. We've been giving you guys some practices to do, and we've been practicing ourselves certain exercises for gratitude, and we just found out that maybe we are a little incorrect on some of those ways. Is that right, John?
Yeah, we've been working hard on gratitude, and not to say that we have been wrong about it, but I guess more so we have not been strategically correct in the way that there are more beneficial ways to practice gratitude. So that's what we're bringing to you today.
That's right. So we're not fully incorrect. There's just different ways to make our gratitude pathway better.
We were
so close.
10% right.
maybe a little bit more. 12%.
You know, we're going to give ourselves as much credit as we can, and
yes.
Yeah, we'll go 12%. That sounds good to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get right to it.
Let's go. All right. So I guess in learning what Andrew Huberman had to say about this, my perspective was that I saw gratitude as something that you did have to will yourself into. So we actually even mentioned it on a previous podcast, fake it until you make it.
Yeah, convince yourself that you're actually experiencing what you're telling yourself you're experiencing.
Right. So, for example, if you were having a really bad day, tell yourself you're having a great day. And come to find out, that doesn't actually work.
No, not precisely. Now, it can on certain occasions, but that's not the best way for your brain to actually process gratitude, or rather the benefits of gratitude. So he tells us a little bit about his own practice, which we'll get to in a moment, but we also want to get to what not to do, I guess.
Right.
And one of those is just creating random things to be grateful for. That's not something that's effective.
Yeah. So if we're talking about, again, trying to fake it till you make it and just making things that you're grateful for example, what I just said, having a bad day and saying that you're grateful for it. One of the neat things that I learned was that your frontal cortex is very context based. So what that means is your brain, in a sense, knows what you're feeling, and you can't talk it out of what it believes to be true. Right. So if that's the case, I can't say I know that I'm having a bad day, but I'm telling myself I'm having a good day, and then get the benefits of that, at least from a gratitude standpoint.
Right, because the brain can process that as negative feedback, to where once it's actually experiencing something that's not positive and you're telling it it's positive, it can actually rewire it in the wrong way.
Yeah, so there was a point in the podcast where he was talking about how your brain has like a seesaw effect, and essentially you have the benefit of gratitude allowing you to feel a sense of joy, awe, happiness, well-being. Those are all on one side of the seesaw. On the other side, you have fear, unwellness, and those actually are things that we gravitate to more. So when you're in that state of having a bad day, your defensive systems in your brain are telling yourself you need to defend yourself from feeling bad, or things could be maybe going worse, or they're already bad, so maybe protect yourself, in which case it doesn't allow you to have those feelings when you're trying to say, hey, I'm having a great day. Your brain is actually telling you, no, you're not.
Right.
So it's encouraging those feelings of unwellness or fear, rather than the feelings that you're trying to convince it to feel, which again could be feelings of well-being or joy or happiness.
So what did Andrew Huberman say that helps to rewire the brain? Like what did he say that's going to help us move towards applying gratitude in an effective manner?
So having the right practice is key, right? Mm-hmm. And we've kind of been talking about how to practice in our own understanding up to this point, which again was not 100% accurate.
Right.
But actually, one of the most effective ways to practice gratitude is to remember a moment where you received gratitude, or a moment where you observed someone being helped or a moment where they were grateful and experienced that fully.
And I think it's so important to understand that, because you don't necessarily have to be the one doing the act itself of giving.
Yeah.
It helps, but what helps the most is you receiving the thanks or seeing somebody that does a good deed and them receiving the gratitude for that.
Yeah, I don't know if you have ever done this. I have definitely done this, but there are different channels on YouTube and Facebook Reels where they're basically going out and helping people that have a need, whether, maybe they've fallen on hard times and they're homeless, or maybe they're panhandling because they need money. And these people go out and they give them exorbitant amount of help in whatever things they need, whether it be jobs or finances, whatever. And those, when they're genuine, really bring me a sense of joy that I now understand, like, it really is like something that I connect with in a different way from what I normally enjoy, as far as, again, watching YouTube or whatever. But I now understand that that is something that is impacting my brain in a way where I am feeling not only joy and happiness about seeing the gratitude, but it's actually rewiring that circuitry in my brain to feel that sense of well-being. In which case, we're going to talk a little bit about how to practice that. But again, just in understanding the science briefly there about what they were stating, that's very cool that it doesn't have to be you that's actually receiving the gratitude. It can actually also be you observing someone else receiving, help or being grateful for something.
Yeah, because simply watching those acts or listening to them is activating certain receptors that fuel empathy.
Yeah.
So somehow, some way, you are receiving the direct, I don't know what we want to call it, energy or just benefit, even if somebody's doing it half a world away.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the brain works and how the body just interconnects itself in such a way that somebody else doing a good deed benefits you.
It is very amazing. And, I think that is something that the natural layman person would not frame that as. Like, when I look at gratitude, I really do think about myself interacting with other people in a way where I'm
being thankful
for them. Yes. Yeah. Or grateful for things.
Sure.
But I think that understanding how your brain is wired and how your brain cognitively benefits from gratitude, it really is wired to see more benefit from you receiving it or observing it. And that, again, is something for sure I learned that totally reframed how I see gratitude.
Absolutely. It did the same for me.
Yeah.
And I think that example that you provided, watching YouTube videos, that's something that I do as well. And whether it's Facebook or X, whatever it may be, those are things that we're actually going to be sharing with you in some episodes later on as well. We just want you guys to kind of get a little tidbit of that. It's coming up for you shortly, because we want to help you on this journey. And again, we're being very transparent. So we're learning on this process as well, and we want to share with you every single piece that we learn along the way. So this is one of those ways where we learn maybe we're doing something that could be improved. That's going to help you as well.
Yeah, so I think that the first point that we could say we're going to walk away with is that your brain, in terms of the way that it sees gratitude, and your physical body as well as your mental state benefits from gratitude. It's not fake it until you make it, It has to be something that you practice in a way where, again, the most beneficial way to receive it is thinking about that moment where you received gratitude, or again, you observed it.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that the key there is that if we're talking about how receiving it is better than giving it, we're not saying don't do.
Right. Don't do the good deeds.
And we're not saying, I think that what we want to put into context here is, obviously we're looking at this from a study of the brain and how your brain benefits, which can be both cognitive as well as physically. You can have benefits there. But I think that also we just want to make sure that you're understanding, in order to receive gratitude, I think that you also have to be somebody that probably as giving gratitude.
Sure,
right?
absolutely. And in this study, one of the things that they monitored were people watching a video of genocide survivors.
Yeah.
Correct. And one of the things they studied, I guess, was the breathing patterns where when you inhale, you're doing the inhalation, your heart rate is a little bit faster than when you exhale and your heart rate slows down. And this is kind of what was happening as people were watching these videos and grasping the benefits of that gratitude that they were witnessing.
Yeah, so the neat part that I took away from that part of the conversation he was having is that the physiological change that can happen is instant. So when we think about getting therapy or going to counseling, getting coaching, going to a meditation, these are things that can take a lot of time, right? To be able to see an impact on your physical body or even your mindset. But I think that the interesting thing about that study was when they were watching this video, they studied it for within 5 minutes, they saw an immediate change in their breathing as well as their heart rate. And then it actually went a step further and they noticed that all the people that they were studying, their heart rates synced up. How strange is that?
Extremely strange.
I don't even know
because they weren't even in the same room.
Yeah, that is just very, very interesting. And I think that, what that comes down to is it shows, at least again, what they discuss is that the impact is significantly faster than most other ways that you can try and, again, impact your physical stress levels as well as your mental. But it also brought them to a baseline where they were all at the same heart rate and breathing. And I think that is, in a sense, like when I think about me, I actually just went to the doctor, so this kind of hits hard. They said that my stress levels were high, and they actually measured my oxygen levels, and my oxygen was high. But what they found was that that's probably because I'm not breathing correctly. I'm actually probably breathing.
Forgot how to breathe.
I'm breathing in more than I'm breathing out. But they said that it could be like from panting, and I don't even recognize it. I don't feel like I'm hyperventilating or anxiety or anything.
Those
like
workouts, huh?
It's very interesting. I don't know what's going on, but I do think that it's interesting to know that because of my stress levels, I probably have abnormal breathing where I'm not breathing at a regular pace, and then to know that again, I could do this practice, and within a 5-minute period, I could not only reduce my heart rate, but also come to a normal breathing pattern. That is something so easy to do,
right,
and so quick to see benefit from.
Yeah.
Why would I not do that?
Absolutely. So one of the fascinating things is that it's easily replicated. They did it with people, again, who weren't in the same room. Some of them weren't even in the same country. They were just watching the same video. So I'm interested in seeing how this works out for you in your situation. And obviously, that's something that I'm going to start applying as well. Because again, everything that we're doing, we're practicing ourselves to see the benefits in our own lives. And I think it's a beautiful, extremely easy to do exercise.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. It'd be freaky to test the heart rate synced theory. I mean, the study proved that it does occur, but it'd be very interesting to know that your heart rate was synced with other people that were actually watching the same video. Because I know that emotionally, when I get connected to these types of videos, I'm experiencing feelings of joy because I see these people so happy and grateful for what they're experiencing. But again, understanding that we're all experiencing that somewhat in a similar way.
Right.
That's unique. That's interesting.
Yeah. So we won't get too much into the very specific details of the study. That's something that we'll link the study, or we'll post the link to the study under our episode. You can also watch Andrew Huberman's episode to get more details into the specifics of the science, because we're not neurologists. So
no. We definitely feel like that was a little above our grade level, but not to say that technically the practice for sure is anyone can do it.
Absolutely.
But I think that the expertise of understanding the science behind it is very high level. So
So one of the things that we do want to talk about is the pro-social, what is it? Superpower? The pro-social.
So basically, there are parts of your brain that have pro-social neurons, and those neurons are basically designed to be able to bring you closer to things. So interacting socially or enjoying something like food or a hobby, these neurons fire off in a way where they bring you closer and want to make you interact more with those things. But then we have the defensive circuits, which kind of protect you from things. And those are kind of the antisocial circuits where, if I think about it just from a layman's way, if I am by myself, I'm isolated, there's nothing that I'm doing out of the normal, maybe just sitting here doing nothing in a dark room, right. I am probably pretty safe from experiencing any kind of conflict or harm, right? But I think that the interesting thing about the pro-social neurons is that when you practice gratitude, these neurons actually begin to fire more regularly, and they can overtake those defensive neurons that naturally I think are much more robust in the way that there's many more things that we could be fearful of or want to protect ourselves from than things that we naturally feel are best for our well-being. Right. But if we have those pro-social neurons firing more regularly because we're having normal practice of gratitude, it will actually allow you to interact in a way where you're much more natural. It basically stated that, let's see. Well, I'll let you talk on it because I have a point that I wanted to get to here.
You mentioned briefly somebody who's perhaps going through a depressive moment. They can think back to a moment where somebody else either thanked them or placed themselves in a situation of a movie maybe, and they're reliving that moment where they felt that they witnessed gratitude, whether it was them in person or them through a movie or a voice recording that they heard of somebody being thankful towards them. Those are things that fire up certain receptors that spike up your dopamine and serotonin as well. That's one of the things I remember because I don't sleep the best. And these practices are supposed to help you with that. So when you monitor them for an average of about 30 days, you see that you're able to get better rest, you're able to be more social, and put yourself in those situations where you're interacting with people and actually receiving something substantial from each of those interactions.
The interesting part about all of that is these are neurons that are very, very plastic. Is it plastic?
Plastic?
Plastic.
Maybe plastic.
I forget. I literally...
Plasticity.
Neuroplasticity. All right. So they're quick to learn and adapt, right? Yeah. But so what they talked about is how the practice of gratitude for as little as 1 minute to 5 minutes could actually make a immediate impact. And if you do this a few times a week, I think that in his podcast he talked about doing it 3 times a week, 1 to 5 minutes, that you could see, again, not only immediate impact in your life, but this is something that will allow you to, they saw a net benefit not only with the interactions of those who you're grateful for within your social circle, but in every aspect of your social life. So with those who maybe you just first met, or even those that you may not be grateful for because maybe you don't have, a mutual respect or something of that nature. I think that is so interesting that it could be a net benefit for the negative people that are in your life. That's really cool.
I think it is cool. You're talking about defensive receptors that kind of is like a self-defense from the body to be able to transform this into a beneficial use for the brain and the cardiovascular system and everything all together in the body.
Yeah, cardiovascular.
Cardiovascular. Hey, sometimes those words, man.
Hey, listen, we are in here deep.
Yes.
because this is very complex from a technical standpoint. So I don't know if I've ever said neuroplasticity before.
Neuroplasticity. You did such a fantastic job.
No, I said plastid at first. So
did.
Hey, we're having fun, but yeah, that's that was a great point about the pro-social aspect of things. So we'll move on to the next point here.
Well, the next point is the last point, the most important point, which is the practice.
A normal practice of gratitude can actually help you rewire your brain so that you are naturally more adept or attracted to feel emotions of well-being, motivation, and the feeling of wanting to be more active. So I think that is interesting because, when I think about isolation, the defensive mechanism of our brains, it does want you to basically stay extremely safe, where, again, at times where I've had really difficult moments in my life, I have felt like I want to shut myself away in a dark place. But when I think about the opposite of that, it really would be a feeling of well-being, of course, but feeling like I want to be socially active and out in the world. Something that was neat about that is that, all right, so we're rewiring our brain so that we feel well-being, less depression, less isolation. But also, there was a neat point where he talked about how it actually can help you feel more comfortable in the present or within your body, rather than if you not necessarily are depressed or in a bad place, but the natural tendency of our brain's wiring is that you can live externally or out of your body. And what that may mean for certain people, and it could be a lot of different things, but I know for me, it may be that I'm looking forward to my goals or achieving things that are in the future or outside of my present circumstance. And I think that the interesting thing about, again, the practice of gratitude is it actually helps you rewire that part of your brain that's always constantly looking for that next thing or that thing that you have to attain or be, or something that, again, maybe right now you don't have in your present circumstance. But it rewires it so that you look internally at your current circumstance and you feel comfortable and well, and again, motivated about what you're doing presently. Right. And I think that is so impactful in my life. If I can get to the point where I'm regularly practicing in this way and I feel those emotions, man, that would impact me as well as I know all of the people that I'm close to.
I think that's a good point and good of you to mention as well, because that leads us to the practice that Andrew Huberman was mentioning and what he tells us to do. And He tells us to do this about 3 times a week. That would be for optimal results.
Yeah, so as little as 1 to 5 minutes a week, 1 to 5 minutes each time, and 3 times a week. What you want to do is again, focus on a story. And what he mentioned was you can go into writing notes and details about a moment where you experience gratitude, really feel those feelings.
You can also watch a movie. There's a scene from a movie. To me, what comes to mind is Schindler's List. Like him at the end, every single person thanking him for the sacrifice that he did. Obviously, I don't want to spoil the movie for anyone that hasn't seen it, but essentially it's a very powerful scene that conveys the point of gratitude quite well.
Yeah. So again, observe, which would be what the case that you just mentioned. But basically making a practice to do this, and it can actually be the same exact movie, the same exact story every time that you go into this practice. Right. He said that, if it's something that you have a detailed recollection of, you can write a thorough, story or note about it. And he did mention that it really is the stories that you're gravitating to here. Sure. Okay. So he said that you could make bullet points or short notes about the story, but really that's what you want to do, is you want to go back to a time or place, a memory where you have a story, or again, a movie that has a good message and story to the point that you're trying to get that gratitude emotion from. But I also want to preface that it's not just saying, hey, this person thanked me.
Right. Yeah. And it's amazing for me because I was listening to it, and as he's describing this, I'm thinking that makes so much sense because as an actor, you use little clips like that, whether it's from a movie or of your own life. And when you're acting, you use those to get you to a specific emotion. So if I need to cry on cue, I'm thinking of a moment that was very emotional for me. If I need to laugh, I think of a comedic point. Whatever it may be, I'm thinking of something to get me to convey that emotion on camera. So when I'm thinking of gratitude, what better way than bringing yourself back to a moment where you actually experience that, when you witness that,
Yeah.
and kind of give that as a spark for your brain to push you forward in that direction. So I think it's going to be extremely beneficial, not only for the audience, but for myself. Like I'm so thankful, even just for understanding that, because now I'm thinking of different moments replaying in my mind that I always think back to, but it's moments like my mom stopping in the street and giving somebody food or helping. She'll stop traffic and move a turtle out of traffic into safety. My siblings giving somebody in need some food or taking them from wherever they're sitting and asking them come with me and buying them a meal right in front of me. You know, like me witnessing my younger siblings doing this fills me with extreme pride,
Yeah.
but also extreme gratitude.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm witnessing them genuinely being kind. They're not putting cameras up. They're not taking pictures or videos. They're just doing this because they feel it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm benefiting from that. Even if I have no part in the action,
Yeah.
it's still something that's affecting me. And now, years later, I can look back on that and spend 1 minute to 5 minutes 3 times a week. Think of those specific moments, and it can actually help me sleep better.
That's cool.
It can actually help me interact in a more social manner, in a positively social manner with other people as well, simply because of the fact that I'm keeping gratitude inside my mind, and that leads to positive changes in your life every single day.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful practice to have.
It really is. I think that it goes back to what we discussed earlier about how gratitude can kind of reframe those moments in your life. I don't know if we referenced this, but there's a point where you talked about that gratitude can help you reframe previous traumas and protect you from future traumas.
We haven't touched on that, so if you want to...
Yeah, so that's exactly it, though. So as far as previous traumas, if you're practicing gratitude, it can help you reframe those moments in a positive way. And this is when you're telling those stories. I think that that's something that's resonated with me. I'm looking back at previous stories and thinking about times where, you know, maybe there was something difficult that I was going to, and I think about how now that I look back at it, they were positive experiences that brought me to a place. But yeah, reframing gratitude can help you reframe those negative experiences, but also can help you see future negative experiences in a more positive way. How impactful would that be?
I mean, to keep that on the forefront of your thoughts as you're facing these things, or as you're seeing there's some potential for something to go haywire, that's going to change how you behave in that moment. That's going to change how you receive that information or that experience. And again, it's all positive for me. Like, I don't see anything negative, and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't really take up too much of your time.
Yeah.
It's just something you can do anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. If it's in the morning, you're too busy, do it at night. If you're too busy at night, do it in the middle of the day. If you don't have any space because the kids are running around, maybe sit on the couch and just meditate for a minute. Think of that moment, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that is the cool part about this is, again, when we talk about the practice of gratitude, it's something that anyone can do. It's very easy, and there's not a limit to how long you can do it. Really, they say the benefit is a minute to 5 minutes. And you see the immediate benefit within 1 to 5 minutes. So really, it could be as little as a minute, and you see the maximum benefit practicing that 3 times a week, which is insane, right?
Yeah, it is. Now, we all know daily life can take you away, and it's difficult to build a habit. So we do recommend that you set a reminder for yourself, at least maybe an alarm or something where you know it's set aside for this, just to at least get you to build that connection within yourself, so that you know, okay, at this time I have to do that, because we don't want you to lose track of it. We know that's so easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. But he did mention that, if you're looking to be consistent, obviously having a specific time of the day that you can do it is probably best. In the morning when you first wake up, obviously there's typically time where we can allocate either waking up a little earlier or maybe cutting something out leisurely that we like to do in the morning, to be able to allocate, again, a minute to 5 minutes to this practice. But you could also do it at night before bedtime. But even if it's something that, again, maybe you have a very busy home life or family life, if you're at work and you're on your lunch break, you can still do it, again, in a very quick amount of time, even on your lunch break.
Yeah. So, again, that practice is take a minute to 5 minutes. Maybe write something down so you already have one experience. If you want to get spicy, maybe think of a couple of scenarios that you found where you were being thanked, or you saw somebody else being thanked.
Yeah.
Whether it's a movie, a voicemail, whatever it is, do that 3 times a week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the story that I keep going back to in my mind is that I remember there was a difficult time in my life where financially I was trying to figure out how to make ends meet. I had a really good job and I thought everything was going well. It was really kind of my dream job. I was traveling, I was doing all kinds of cool stuff. And the job came to an end. They terminated me unexpectedly, right? So then I was looking for other opportunities, and it was months that I couldn't find anything. So financially, trying to figure that out was very difficult. I remember I got evicted from my apartment, and not to go into a sob story here, but I just remember, this is a really difficult time in my life, and I'm looking at this and reframing it because this is a moment where I experienced so much gratitude. But the story that I think of where I know that I can get into this emotion is I remember a friend, I had gone to a church and a friend called out to me on phone just to follow up and see how I was doing. And at the end of the conversation, he asked, is there anything that he could pray about, right? And I remember that everything in me was saying no. There's nothing that I need. I'm good.
Yeah.
Because in my inner self, I'm thinking I have to be able to figure this out. There's no one that can help me. But I remember him saying, "Do you want me to pray?" And then something came over me. I said, "Yeah, you can pray." And I just remember in that moment, and this is the interesting part about how I see this story as a gratitude story, is that in this story, or in his prayer, he was praying about this job. I had gone to an interview. I had told this story to him before. I'd gone to an interview, and I thought the interview went really well, but I called the office. This is probably a week later after my interview. I called the office to see if they were still looking to hire me because it had been a week now. And they basically told me, "Hey, look, we apologize, but if we would have wanted to hire you, we would have already called you. So sorry, this isn't going to work out," right? But so I told him that story, and then he's praying, and I remember him saying, "God, if this is the job for John, we just want you to show him that you can provide a miracle and that you're going to give him the job, and we're going to be thankful right now that that's occurring." And I remember him thanking God for that and thinking, this is so strange. This is very, very strange because I'm not used to like hearing people pray like this, but also I just told him the facts are I'm not getting the job.
Yeah.
And then we hung up the phone, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to get back on Monster, or at that time, oh God, that was a while ago, Monster, Job Search, or Career Builder, whatever, doing some more job interviews. But maybe 20, 30 minutes go by, and I get a phone call, and it's the business that actually told me that they didn't want to hire me. They called me and they said, "Hey, are you still needing that job? We're going to need you to be here first thing in the morning." And I look at that, and again, like it was such a, it was so needed because I was desperate financially,
Sure.
And it was such a blessing. But I also think that it was a terrible time for me, and I just remember thinking, this guy is so thankful for something that's never going to happen. And that is just a clear story where I can look at that and I can reflect on that. And I can say that is something that brings me such a feeling of gratitude,
Sure.
And an emotional connection to what gratitude can do, because that was so unexpected and such a beautiful thing, and it actually felt like a miracle. It was awesome. So I just wanted to express a quick story there that maybe some other people can relate to. I don't know, that's out in left field, so maybe other people can't relate, but
No, I'm sure everyone can relate. We've all
Yeah.
gone through struggles and difficult situations, and I think that's one of those stories where your perspective of gratitude was reframed. Also, maybe a little bit of faith as well
Yeah.
was reframed, because you saw somebody in that person, they were acting on faith.
Yeah.
They were speaking with authority
Yeah.
in a certain way, which is, if we all get to that point where we're actually believing in our words and interactions, that's what you can affect on other people as well.
Man, how cool is that?
Oh, that's incredible.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually tell the guy, his name is Ben. Ben, if you're watching, I love you, buddy. But yeah, I told Ben that story, and this is years after. We just saw Ben randomly. So I haven't seen Ben in forever. We saw him randomly the other day, and I told him that story, and he actually thanked me for telling him that story.
Wow.
Because he didn't remember it. He did remember it, but he's like, "What was the story?" And then I told it to him, and he messages me later that night and says, "I just want you to know I'm so grateful for you sharing that with me."
Oh,
and
my
it's like full
goodness.
circle, man.
Yeah.
I have chill bumps. It's so crazy, but the fact that we're sharing a story about gratitude, and now I'm just seeing these, it's like epiphanies, It's man, it's beautiful. It's
It
beautiful.
truly is.
Yeah.
It truly is. And honestly, I'm not sure how much more we can add
Yeah.
after that, because that's exactly what we want every single person to get to be able to experience a story like that and have their own moments that they can share with others too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So, I think that we can wrap it there, guys, but I do want to say, we want to continue to share these beautiful messages with you. Hopefully you got something from this. We obviously we'll have more content coming out on a regular basis. We're doing the challenges, in which case we would love for you to participate as well. But if you do have any feelings about this, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, we would love for you to share anything that's on your heart with us. So if you want to comment, like, share, subscribe. Again, we enjoy doing this. We want to do this in a way where it impacts our lives as well as your lives. And hopefully there'll be a lot more of that coming. But
Not to add too much, but yes, if you have any stories like what he just shared, please send them to us. We would like to share them with others as well, because these are limitless. There's always going to be space for one of these stories, and you never know who they're going to touch. You never know who they're going to change. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's your family members, your loved ones. You never know.
Yeah.
But we want to thank you for watching, and we will see you again soon.